What's good, everybody? Today we're going to switch it up a little bit. We got a new challenge coming up from Crazy Ed's Homestead. If you haven't checked it out, he's got a cooking challenge, a smoking challenge, a make the best type of meat something challenge. So today we're going to be working on a little project. We're going to smoke some pork. Alright, so let's get a look and see what we got here. We got the pork trifecta today. A thick cut, 1.5 pounds of naturally hardwood smoked bacon. It's going to get smoked some more. Amen. We got some, we'll flip it around so you can actually read it. Some pork loin back ribs. Great for smoking. Good, because we're going to smoke it. And of course, we got 2 lovely pork loin half loins ready to go. So I'm going to get the camera set up here, and then we'll start working on the seasoning, the rub, and then we'll get it in the smoker and watch the magic happen. Stick around. Right, so to start this off, we're going to set this stuff off to the side that we're not using at the moment. And we'll come back to the bacon later. The bacon will come on after we smoke this for a little while. That way the bacon doesn't get too crispy. So let's go ahead and get these cut open. Right here. We'll get them set out in our pan, and then we'll start working on seasoning these bad boys. Look at that. And we're just going to leave it all the juices and stuff like that. That helps keep the moisture, keep the flavor in, everything like that. It's going to keep it nice and juicy as they go through the smoking process. If you don't know, while you're smoking, you end up losing a lot of moisture, and the goal is to keep everything nice and juicy for the people you're making the food for. So let's get these bad boys cut open here real quick. Yeah. Look at that. All right. Get all the juices out there. And make sure you got your your sink close by. Keep your hands clean, nice and clean. We're going to go ahead and get these things seasoned up real nice. So this does have a decent amount of fat on it, but that's okay. Some people like to take the fat off and trim it off. I'm not an expert on trimming off the fat, so we're going to leave the fat on for now. Let it render down as we go through the smoking process. If there's any excess or anything like that, it can be cut off as you go eat it. Not a huge deal. Most people will take it off, but again, like I said, I'm not a professional at this, so that's how I'm going to do it. First thing we're going to do is salt, and we're going to salt these pretty heavily. Moderate to heavy salting, just so that salt gets down there. Salt is the first thing that will go down and break down the muscle and get in and give it the most flavoring. That's what's required to give it the best flavoring, is a good amount of salt. A lot of people end up under-salting anything that they're smoking because they're afraid it's going to dry it out. So once we've got those salted, we're going to go ahead and put on black pepper. Now I like to get a coarse ground black pepper or a bigger pepper, just because when you get down too small, it ends up breaking down too much and you lose a lot of that heat. The bigger the grain, the more flavor, more heat you're going to get out of it. Go ahead and put that on, the pepper on there. And again, don't be afraid to over seasoning is underrated. A lot of this stuff, once you flip it over and once you kind of work with it a little bit, the excess will fall off. Get a nice good coat on it on both of these. There we go. Salt and pepper are the 2 main things you want to focus on. That's what's going to give it the most, and that's what absorbs most into the meat to give it the most amount of flavor. Next thing you want to do is do garlic powder. Just some generic garlic powder, and garlic powder is going to help break down the muscle. That's the main reason why just a light coating of garlic powder helps break down those muscle fibers and muscle tissues inside. It also helps render the fat as well. Just light dusting of garlic powder on there, and again, it's also added flavor to it as well. Make sure you're getting every side, every piece coated and decent of all your seasoning. Next up, we put a little bit of chili powder. Adds a little bit of heat You use chili powder, cayenne powder, anything, any type of pepper, any type of added heat there, just to kind of, again, add to that smoky flavor and add to that flavor. We're going to be putting these in with the smoke. Again, just kind of lightly dust it, depending on the heat preference of the people you're cooking this for. If you're cooking for yourself, just picking the amount that you want to put on there just to keep the heat at the level you like it. If you want more heat, obviously add more to it. Next up, we're just going to go with a basic rub. Get this opened up here. This is a new one I haven't opened up yet. Yeah, and you just type a basic rub. A lot of people have their preferences. A lot of people know what they like. Use what you like. There's no special. Any rub is not going to be one more special than the other. It all depends on the people eating it and how you like it, how you want to do it. And again, most of the stuff we've already put on there is probably in this rub. This is, again, just to kind of get a good cover. The goal with everything that we're putting on here is to make what's called the bark. The bark is the outer crust, the shell that will keep the flavor inside and hopefully locks in all that moisture. Now, of course, being from Ohio, we got to add Grippo's barbecue seasoning. There's nothing better to add on to anything to make it taste better than Grippo's barbecue seasoning. So we're going to dust that on here a little bit as well. Again, all about flavor preferences. You can find all kinds of different flavors in different types of department stores and stores, depending on where you're at in the area. Some people like more of a vinegar taste. Some people like it, whatever. Pick your preference. Pick whatever you like. All right, so we're going to flip these guys over now. We've got the fat side seasoned up. And see, all that stuff's going to fall off there anyway. That's not good and stuck on there. Some people like to use a binder. As long as you've got a good piece of meat, it's got some juices still on it, binder's not really necessary. So we'll flip these guys over real quick. And we'll repeat the process. We've got our pork loins seasoned and ready to go. I'll give you a look. Look at that. Yeah, buddy. So we'll go ahead and set these off to the side. Let that seasoning sit. Usually around 15 to 20 minutes. That way it gets a good amount of time for the meat to come up to closer to room temperature. And also gets closer, or gets the seasoning in and lets that flavor kind of soak into the meat for a little bit. So we'll set those aside and then we'll start working on our ribs. Now, ribs are a little bit more tricky to deal with, because you will sometimes have, depending on where you get the meat from, the silver skin still left on the back. So we'll get this cut open here real quick and see. But that silver skin is what they call, is just a sinuous tissue. It's on the back part of the ribs there. And it doesn't really taste good, doesn't really eat well. It ends up being really tough to try to get off once you start cooking. So we'll check it out here and see what we've got to work with. And again, all that juices and stuff. Now, that's not blood. This is just the solution that they use whenever it is processed in a meat processing factory. That is not blood. That is a hemoglobin mixture with the saltwater solution that they soak these in to clean them out. That is not blood. Common misconception. Learned that one in college. Actually took a college course on meat science. So, let's see here. And it looks like I have some silver skin to fight with. So now that we've got that silver skin removed, we're going to focus on, you don't really have to worry about focusing on seasoning the back. That's really nothing besides the bone underneath part. Nobody's going to be eating on that. So next, what we're going to do is get a mustard. And this one we will put a binder on just because ribs are usually a little bit of a tougher muscle. So we'll go ahead and put some mustard on. And again, this is all preference. You can put your rub on without putting a binder. Some people do, some people don't. It all, again, depends on personal preference. A lot of people use a mustard binder because it doesn't really take on a whole lot of the mustard flavor as it gets in to the smoker, but it does hold the rub and all the spices and seasoning and stuff that you're going to put on there. So again, just kind of lightly rub that on there, and you don't need it to be too thick. It's literally just enough to coat the entire piece of meat here. That way it's good to go, and it holds those spices in. And again, it does add a little bit of flavor, but mostly the vinegar inside the mustard will help out as well with breaking down some of those muscle fibers and muscle tissues inside the ribs. Again, the ribs are kind of a tougher chunk of meat. They'll take a little bit longer than our pork loins here in the smoker. So we'll go ahead and get this one in as soon as we get it seasoned up. So again, pork pretty much stays the same as far as seasoning goes. A little bit heavy on the salt. Get it down, get those muscle fibers broke down, get some flavor inside there as well. We'll get some black pepper as well on here. Get that nice and evenly coated. And again, like I said, using the coarse grain just gives a little bit more flavor. That pepper seed, when it's a little bit bigger, opens up the kind of heat flavor you'll get out of black pepper. When it's so ground down to a fine powder, you kind of lose that heat and that flavor. I always like using a little bit coarser. If you've got a good pepper mill, good pepper grinder, it makes it even better. And again, all of this is to create the bark on the outside of the meat. Pepper is one of the biggest components of that. Pepper is the smoky flavor. It's going to absorb that smoky flavor. It's also going to bind really well to the outside of the meat and create a really, really nice crust, or what we call bark, on the outside of it. Again, just adding the chili powder, the garlic powder. If you've got garlic salt, you can use that as well. But again, I like to be able to control how much I put on of each, as I've learned and grown with being able to smoke meat, knowing exactly how much I like to put on, how much the flavor of each thing complements the flavor of the other. If you're newer to the game, having a pre-mixed rub or pre-mixed salt, pepper, garlic powder, however it's pre-mixed, that's again all dependent on your preference level and your ability to smoke and flavor. And finally, gotta add the lovely Grippo's barbecue seasoning. Goodness gracious, it's going to taste good. All right, we've got it seasoned up. It's time for the main event. So now we are out here at our pellet smoker. It's a Pit Boss smoker that we normally use for our smoking meat. It's real nice. It's a pellet smoker in this little hopper. We've got hardwood pellets, and right here should be hickory and oak from the last time we used it. So those will work out great. Hickory has one of the best flavors for smoking. If you like a sweeter flavor, an apple wood or a cherry wood, hickory and oak kind of give it that more smoky and more wood flavor. So we'll go ahead and get this thing started here. Get it turned on. You gotta prime it for about 5 seconds. There we go. So right now, we're gonna wait and let this do an initial burn off any crusts or any pieces of stuff left over from the last time we used it. That way it kind of gets a nice time to cook over. We're gonna go ahead and get some aluminum foil down. That way we've got a bed for all of our meat to sit on. Eyeball it here. Maybe, or you can watch me struggle. Yeah, we'll set that down here. While that smoker is heating up, we're gonna go ahead and remove our top rack here. We'll set that off to the side. If you don't have a pellet smoker, I advise everyone. It changes your life. They come in all different shapes and sizes. This one works good. Usually feed about a family of 4 or 5 with it. But for full capacity, I'd say you could probably feed a family of 10 or 12. If you really wanted to, I bet you could. We're going to let this sit for just a second here, and that'll give our meat time to come up to room temperature. Set that right there, and now we're going to wait. Once you see the smoke coming out, that means we're good to rock and roll. We're going to open it up, and that glorious hickory and oak wood flavor smell, smoke is going to come rolling out. Oh, buddy, look at that. All right, we get our aluminum to stay here. ahead and place our lovely rack of ribs right off to the kind of side to the edge. That way there is not a full amount of direct heat to it, but there is a good amount of heat. And again, the main point of this is to get that smoke flavor rolling. Now, since you guys watch our channel, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret that will change your game when it comes to smoking meat, and that is in the lovely maroon colored 2-liter, which I'm not going to show so I don't get brand hit for copyright strikes. But I think you know a certain cherry type of cola that makes a wonderful flavor for meat smoking. We're just going to drizzle a little bit on here, and that's going to give a wonderful flavor to the meat. Now, as you can see, we're already getting a bunch of smoke rolling out, so let's shut it. Initially right now, we're bringing it up to heat, so it's okay. We're going to scorch it a little bit, that way we go ahead and seal in that bark to begin with, and then we'll come back out and adjust it to the exact temperature we need it for this. So we're going to let that sit. Usually I let the sear cycle sit for about 10 minutes, and that gives just enough heat to it that it's going to build that bark, and then we'll let it ease and slow cook in the lovely smoke flavor for the next few hours. We're going to take a sneak peek. It's been on for about 10 minutes with our sear cycle. Oh, I wish you could smell it. It smells fantastic. So now we're going to go ahead and take it down. We're going to put the internal temperature at 225 degrees. That's the lovely thing about this smoker is we just press a button and it holds that temperature. And then we're going to take this back up, take one of our probes here, go. We're just going to stick it down in here, get a good shot in the middle. We'll leave that probe in there, and we're hoping to get to about 185 to 190 degrees internal. So what we're going to do, shut this, close our gate latch there, and that way inside the smoker is just going to now smoke up those pellets. And this is going to sit approximately 3 hours at 225, and then we'll come back, we'll cover it, we'll glaze it, and then we'll let it smoke for another couple hours, and afterwards we let it rest, and then we enjoy. So another thing we're going to do while we're waiting on those to smoke is work on a barbecue sauce. So I've already got some in the pan right now, basically simmering down, taking away most of the liquid. We're going to put it down to a syrup. We'll mix it in with some barbecue sauce. We're going to add in a little bit of our black pepper as well as some brown sugar. And that will just kind of give it a more barbecue flavor for the sauce as well. This is going to work as a barbecue sauce and our glaze. We've let our pork loin rest for a little while. We're going to go ahead and put these buddies on the smoker and let them smoke for a little while, and then we'll come back after a little bit and wrap them in bacon. Let's check on see how our ribs look. Oh man, look at that. Nice bark already starting to form up on there. Go ahead and set pork loin right there. Go ahead and get the other one. Set him right there. We'll see y'all in a couple hours. So it's been about an hour and a half, or excuse me, 2 hours on the ribs here. So we're gonna go ahead and put the glaze on. Open it up and see how these beauties look. This is my favorite part. Oh yeah, sneak peek, a little jalapeno poppers going on over there. Looking nice on the pork loin, starting to make that crust. And now we're gonna add our glaze. All it takes is just a little, like painting it on. Take, paint on there. Keep it nice and juicy. Keep the flavor going on these ribs. We won't necessarily do that on the pork loins because we got the bacon going on the pork loins, but put a little more glaze on there and we'll be good to go. Alright, now that these have been smoking for a couple hours, we're going to go ahead and put some bacon on our pork loins. Now we're using thick cut, already pre-smoked hardwood bacon. help, again, just add some flavor. And we're only going to do one of these because one of these is going to have a different flavor. One of them is going to have, you know, different style, a different texture. So go ahead and get these buddies wrapped up here. Nice. And you want to cover the entirety of the top of the pork loin. Get all that nice bacon fat to render down over top of the pork loin. Gives it a good juicy flavor. Add some of that bacon grease to it. Real nice. You can put this bacon on before you put it in and just cook it all at the same time. The only problem with that is then the bacon tends to get really crispy. And I like this method a little better just because that pork loin is going to cook slower than the bacon will. That bacon will cook pretty fast. So this way it'll kind of get everything cooked nice and even. Just tuck it up underneath your pork loin. Careful not to burn yourself. We'll toss a couple here on the top just to give it some added bacon goodness. Look at all that bacon. Like I said, this is just to kind of cook it down with some of the bacon grease. We'll add to the moisture. We'll add to that flavor. Give it a little bit different than just... Pork loin doesn't always have the best flavor. That's why smoking it is a commonality with this. And there we go. We're all set. Pork loins have been on there for a while. We've already taken our ribs out. Let's get a good look and see what they look like. Oh man, look at that. Good grief. Oh my. I cannot wait until I get to try these, man. Even that bacon. Look at that bacon, man. Woo! Stay tuned for a taste test.
Those two, they cannot not ask.
Maddie and Blake and
Sure you
Haley
didn't
are
do this
looking at
correctly.
Emily, what do you think? That's it. Thumbs up because it's good. Liz?
Very good.
Delicious.
Tracy?
I got my mouth full. Good stuff.
Michelle?
Yummy.
Yummy.